All right, we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the fifth episode of the Dynasty podcast. I know you got some new faces here. We were off for a little bit, but we are back on now and ready to give you guys some good fantasy material here. So, I am your host, Coach Meany. My Twitter handle right there is dmeany at 9688. Excited to get this thing going again. So, I'm going to introduce Charlie here. What's up, Charlie?
Hey guys, Coach Charlie. You can find me on Twitter at Chuckster7777. Pleasure to be back to give you guys some good content.
And then we have the new guy here, Coach Nick.
Hey everybody, Coach Nick. I'm at @nlapthorn at Twitter, and just happy to be here and give you guys some good advice, hopefully.
First off, I want to start out with the football team. I'm definitely a big Broncos fan, so hopefully we can get ourselves a head coach that can get us a quarterback and solve that problem that has been plaguing us for the last 6 years. So hopefully, we'll see.
I'm a depressed Giants fan. God knows we need a GM and a head coach. So anyone over Dave Gettleman feels like a pretty big upgrade. 2 top 10 picks. So I'm hoping we can get somebody good for that.
I am a not somewhat depressed Saints fan. I haven't pulled the brown bag back out yet. Hopefully we figure out our quarterback situation. I don't know what's going on. I got a lot of faith in Taysom Hill, but we got to see what happens. So Saints fan, though, regardless of the brown bag or not.
Gotcha. All right, guys. So this show, we're going to be focused on the dynasty aspect of fantasy football. We're going to get into a little bit of the daily and redraft aspect of it, but it's mainly dynasty here. So we're going to start off the first show here with players that impressed in 2021 and could possibly be seeing a uptick in touches or their role being increased in the 2022 season. We'll start out with quarterbacks first. Charlie, you want to give your two?
For one of mine, I have Davis Mills down for me. I think Deshaun Watson is going to get traded this offseason. The situation is going to get resolved. So wherever he goes, that really doesn't matter. Davis Mills stepped in and did a pretty admirable job this year. He had some great performances towards the end of the season. That Texans team was fighting, and they were competing with some really good teams. And the reason they were doing that was because of Davis Mills. He can sling the football. And so I think Texas saw enough from him that they're not going to devote any real resources to the quarterback position in the offseason. So they're going to give him a chance again to show him what they got. And I think he's going to have a good starting role this coming year and could potentially be maybe QB2 for Dynasty.
Yeah, he balled out. I mean, with being on a team where there's not a whole lot there other than Brandon Cooks, I mean, he had a lot of good games. Kept him in a lot of games and had a couple upsets also. So Davis Mills is definitely one to keep an eye on next year.
It's definitely saying something considering Brandon Cooks hasn't been a household name since he left New Orleans.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Nick, you got one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go with my less than obvious, but still completely obvious choice here in Mac Jones. I'm going to take the easy dunk on that one. Mac Jones, I mean, for a rookie season, he came out, struggled early, but of course, Bill Belichick being Bill Belichick picked his guy up, instilled that Patriots mentality into him, that faith system into him. Team surrounded him, and look what they were able to do, barring obviously the whooping they took down there in Buffalo.
Yeah, his season definitely ended a little sourly, but he balled out. I mean,
He really did.
Patriots found their guy for the next 10, 20 years, however long they're going to keep him. So, my guy, I went with a guy that might have a starting job next year. It's going to be barring trade, but he definitely balled out when he got his opportunity. I picked Tyler Huntley.
Mm-hmm.
When Lamar Jackson went down, he carried the Ravens and picked up some big wins for them. Was picking up great statistics both with his arm and legs. So he's one to watch out for. There's not a very great quarterback free agent market out there right now. So you might see a team take a chance and trade for him.
And not to mention the draft class isn't anything to write home about either.
Yep. So we will see. Any other quarterbacks you guys want to mention?
I like what I saw from Justin Fields.
Yeah.
When he was when he was on the field this year, when he was healthy, he was bringing that dual threat potential out on the field, and he did his best with a very mediocre Bears offense and a horrible coach in Matt Nagy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with a better system and a new head coach, the sky's only going to be the limit for him. And I already, like I said, of what I saw from Justin Fields, he has some great games. I think he's going to be even better. Great dynasty asset. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. I was actually saying that to Meany before we went live here. I loved what Justin Fields was doing with the Bears, and his play is what made me put the Bears opening at number 2 as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I had him as the rookie quarterback number 1 for me. I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to struggle like he did. So he definitely exceeded expectations for me. So we'll move on to our running back here. I'll go first here. I picked Devin Singletary.
Mm-hmm.
He finally cemented the role as the number 1 running back, I believe, in Buffalo. He's balling out right now. Last night he destroyed in that game, just running all over him. So
yeah.
I think that next year he's going to have more of a lead back, bell cow type role and possibly be high-end running back 2, possibly lower running back 1 in that offense. So
I agree. Patriots wanted nothing to do with that man. He was a machine last night.
Yep. So Nick, you want to go?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna seem like the cheese ball in this one. I'm gonna take all the slam dunks I can grab, but I'll tell you what. We talked about a little bit. Javonte Williams, I think, is gonna run Melvin Gordon right out of Denver. He's gonna help whatever quarterback they decide to bring in, whoever they decide to go with. He is going to be a big selling point, not only for their future free agent QB and their head coaches during that search too. He's going to be a huge selling point. That defense, that running back, I think he's going to be amazing coming up this next season.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited for him.
So one I was impressed with this year, a little bit of a slam dunk as well, with Eli Mitchell over in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Sermon basically didn't see the field at all this year. We all know San Francisco kind of likes to run a committee typically, whoever's riding the hot hand. And basically the whole year the hot hand was Eli Mitchell when he was healthy on the field. He showed good bursts. He was pretty shifty. He did a little bit of everything, which I think Shanahan always appreciated. So I think he's going to have that step up over Sermon going into next year. So I think he's going to get the shot to be the lead back again and potentially be an RB1 for fantasy.
Yeah, 2 points on that. Even whenever Jeff Wilson came back, Mitchell is still getting the bulk of the carries, which is weird in a San Francisco Kyle Shanahan offense. Like you said, they love going committee. So, and then the other thing is, Mitchell and Sermon are the only 2 backs on the roster for 2022. Everybody else is a free agent or not beginning to be back with the team. So Mitchell could see a big uptick in production and opportunity next year. So
yeah, actually another back in a similar situation. Not a name I thought I would talk about, but Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah.
Because both Fournette and Ronald Jones are going to be free agents. Now, if I had to put money on it, I would say that Leonard Fournette comes back to Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Brady liked him, had a good relationship with him. But if for some reason he doesn't, Keyshawn Vaughn, I think, would be the only real running back in the locker room, at least at the time. So he could get an opportunity, just something to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree. Ronald Jones has been nothing but a disappointment there in Tampa Bay. They've given him plenty of chances. Couldn't agree more with you.
Mm-hmm. Nick, never mind. We will. Anybody else want to name any more running backs or?
Yeah, I got one for you. And this is, again, it's going to seem like an obvious one, but we're talking about people who are looking at an uptick in picks, uptick in touches. And I think he's proven himself a commodity. And I think Jonathan Taylor of Indy is going to take over kind of a Derrick Henry-esque role. Again, I know it seems obvious, but his quarterbacks aren't doing anything. They're not winning games. Jonathan Taylor's winning games for the Colts. I think he's going to really, really take over in that kind of King Henry type of role. And you're going to see him getting 25 touches a dang game again. So
if that happens, you're going to look like a genius, sir. I will put one more out there. Rashad Penny.
Yes.
I mean, Chris Carson is gone next year. As far as right now, if they re-sign him, I don't know. But he's finally starting to look like the first-round running back that the Seahawks drafted.
Remember, Penny's this year too.
Is he? Okay.
Yes.
So we'll see. I mean, did he do enough to?
He might be able to find a starting job elsewhere. So
yeah, did he do enough to get the job somewhere?
That was a historic 5-game stretch.
Yeah.
That was something else.
Yep.
All that. Go ahead, Mean.
I was just going to say his biggest thing has always been health. I mean, he's always been able to run the ball great. It's just he can stay healthy forever. So.
Yeah.
But. All right, we'll move on to the wide receivers here. Charlie, go ahead and go first on this one.
Sure. I want to talk about a guy who is a personal favorite of mine, someone I try to get in most of my fantasy leagues, Darnell Mooney.
Yep.
In Chicago, he had a 1,000-yard receiving year this year, I believe. He is an amazing route runner. I mean, I remember last year there was that video I saw of him juking the shoes out of Jalen Ramsey. And there's not many players in the league who can do that. Only his second year, he's already shown a lot. He and Justin Fields seem to have a real connection, which is big. And they're both still really young, so it's kind of a stack that I like to have in most of my dynasty leagues if I can.
Yeah.
And with Allen Robinson potentially leaving too, that could cement Mooney as the alpha.
I think Robinson's gone. Gone. He wanted out of Chicago a while back. He had a bad year. He's gone. I think they either draft or go after a free agent somewhere. There's a lot of good free agent wide receivers out there, so we'll see. Nick, go ahead.
So I'm going to throw out two names here, and they're both kind of names because I don't know if the one's going to be able to repeat the season he's had, and I don't know what the other one's going to do when the actual star wide receiver comes back this next season. But I'm going to throw out Cordell Patterson and Marquez Callaway.
Oh.
Yes. See?
Okay.
I don't know what Patterson's going to be able to do. I don't know if he's going to be able to mimic this Cinderella-esque season he's had this year and his role there in Atlanta. And then with Callaway, I just don't know what his game plan is going to look like when Big Mike returns.
It's tough to say with Patterson because their entire offense was pretty much Patterson and Pitts. Nobody else. You got to think Ridley's going to be back next year. You could see a new quarterback. I mean, Matt Ryan's been in the trade talk for a couple seasons now. So you might see them saying, screw it, we're just going to trade him and go with one of these rookies to minor rebuild. But
Ridley will not be back. I don't know if you guys saw that report.
Yes, I did.
There's an increasing chance that Ridley will get traded out of Atlanta.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, that's why I gave you that look when you said his name. I said he might not be returned.
Yeah.
Well, then I would, with that, I mean, if they don't go out and get one of the star free agents or spend the first or second round pick on one of these incoming receivers.
It's not a
Patterson's
bad class
big.
wide receiver either.
It's not. That's a fair statement.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, it's very possible. So and then Callaway, who knows what Thomas is going to end up doing? He's sat out all year, so he's going to be fresh.
Yeah.
But
That also depends. Obviously, Nick, you would know the quarterback situation in New Orleans. What's
Right.
going to happen there? That's really going to decide what the production of the wide receivers looks like.
Correct. But that's kind of almost plays to my point, because if we're bringing in a new guy, you're not going to be throwing it to an unproven guy. You're going to take the vet that's proven himself. So he may see his numbers go down because they're going to be throwing to Mike all the dang time because they know they can trust him.
no,
Right.
that's very true. I went with two guys I'll throw out there: Gabriel Davis
Mm-hmm.
and Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
Michael
Oh.
Gallup is going to be gone in Dallas, so wide receiver 3 is wide open for Cedric Wilson to take, and he looked good this year. His rapport with Dak is just fire right now. And then Gabriel Davis, I wrote an article earlier in the season saying go get him, go get him, go get him, and he's the second best option right now in Buffalo.
Yeah.
It just seems like their offense is so much better whenever he's on the field. So go out and get him, go out and get him, go out and get him.
Solid choices.
So you got any, Charlie?
I have two names that I want to throw out there. One of them is pretty obvious. He became a fantasy darling at the end of the year. I'm on Ross St. Brown. We got to talk about what that man did. And the other one, as a Giants fan, I was happy with what I saw in the limited sample size, Kadarius Toney. So for Amon-Ra, he the fact that he was kind of able to succeed with pretty poor quarterback play, because he had Jared Goff behind center. I think even Tim Boyle started the game for Detroit as well, and he was still putting up 100+ yards. He was grabbing touchdowns. That kind of speaks to his talent level and the fact that no matter who Detroit has under center, he's going to succeed and be a good fantasy wide receiver. And for Kadarius Toney, I think the Giants are going to cut Sterling Shepard this offseason because he has a pretty high cap number. And so that's going to free up a good amount of targets, especially in the slot where Kadarius Toney tends to work best. That's where he worked best in Florida. I think that's where he'll be in the Giants offense next year, sort of like the number 2 guy. And he and Daniel Jones had a pretty good report. And if the Giants bring in someone else at quarterback, say Russell Wilson, that's only going to increase Toney's stock even further. And he is so shifty. It's not even fair. I remember watching the game against the Cowboys this year where he had nearly 200 yards, and he was making people miss, juking and jiving. He shook Trayvon Diggs out of his shoes so hard, I fell on the floor laughing. It was amazing. But those two guys I want to keep an eye on.
Oh yeah, 2 very good rookies this year. So we'll see. In the case of Amon-Ra, do they go out and get an alpha wide receiver in the draft or free agency to compete with him, or is he just going to be their number 1? And then also Hawkinson coming back might affect him a little bit. So, but
Well,
he balled out.
You got 3 people down there who can catch the ball. You got Hawkinson, you got Amon-Ra, and you got DeAndre Swift when he's healthy. So,
yep. So, and then drawing a blank on your other guy. Oh, Kadarius Toney. I mean, with Evan Ingram going, he's a free agent this year. So that could be middle of the field targets for him.
Health is going to be his only issue because he missed a lot of games this year, a bunch of different ailments. So, but you can say that with a lot of guys.
Oh yeah.
Injury.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the tight ends here. I'll go first here. I'm gonna go Dalton Schultz.
Yep.
He balled out. He's I think replaced Blake Jarwin in their offense, and he's not to mention he's in the best offense in the league fantasy wise. So he's got the rapport with Dak. He seems to be the red zone guy for him. So you're gonna be looking at a lot of touchdowns for a guy in a position where touchdowns are golden for a tight end. So
a guy I want to throw out there who was pretty decent towards the end of the year was David Njoku. He got some good red zone opportunities when cashing in at the end of the year, and he's going to be a free agent. And I think there are going to be some teams with question marks or opening at the tight end position that are going to need a guy to step in. And I think Njoku, maybe even for the Giants, just for example, but just like a team that needs a tight end, Njoku can step in and be that big vertical threat up the middle and someone who can be a big red zone target.
Yep, I agree. He's I think Cleveland was the wrong spot for him.
I agree. I think a lot of us have been waiting for Njoku to be everything we hoped he would be, and I think Cleveland's been the reason he hasn't.
Yep.
In fact, hey, let's get Njoku. Let's do the Njoku to New England chant and see if we can't get that to happen, because I think he'd be great up there in those schemes.
I just don't know if they will.
Yeah, already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I got one, and I'm glad that neither of you two said anything, because I was going to be out of luck here if I got this guy picked, because I don't have anybody else. But and this was an odd one. I picked him up after his first good game, and he really kind of was up and down, but he had some good games for me. And that's CJ Azuma from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You know, I thought he had a really, really good year this year. I thought he proved enough that maybe he can continue to be a target. The problem is he's got so much talent at his wideouts to try to compete with.
Yep. You got 3 top, probably 30 wide receivers.
Oh, you got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase for sure.
Yeah, Joe Mixon in there.
Yeah, Mixon too.
A lot of targets.
Yeah, but I think Joe Burrow's got the arm to spread that love around. So
yeah. I'm gonna throw one more out there. Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yep.
He's just. I mean, he's get 11, 12 touchdowns right now.
Yeah, he's been so quiet but consistent. Yeah. He hasn't been huge, but consistent.
Mm-hmm. So, just it'll be interesting because Brian Dable is going to get a job somewhere as a head coach. So they're going to be in a completely different offense. But I mean, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and Dawson Knox being thrown to by Josh Allen. Sign me up any day for any one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
But anybody else got any more tight ends before we move on?
I got my homer pick, and I know you guys have already hated on me for this one, but I think depending on who comes in at quarterback for the Saints, I think you're going to see a big, big step up here from Adam Troutman.
I hear you.
I'll add on to that, different situation, but same thing pending quarterback. Pat Freiermuth. We saw a lot of Freiermuth this year. Big Ben seemed to like him in the red zone. He was a good guy. Get to the sticks. If Pittsburgh brings in someone who can throw the ball halfway decent and is not completely immobile in the pocket like Big Ben was, then we see a bit more of an uptick in the targets and opportunity for Pat.
Yeah,
I agree.
He's definitely probably the best I almost made a big mistake there. Second best rookie tight end there. I forgot about Mr. Kyle Pitts, but he's baller. He's definitely a big red zone threat for him. And wasn't it in college he never dropped a red zone pass or something like that? So
that one up.
He's big. But going back to Adam Troutman, and this gets us into our next segment here, the players that didn't live up to expectations in 2021 that could see a replacement possibly or a downgrade in production and targets next year. I'm going to go for the tight end position. I'm going Adam Troutman. I get that he didn't have a great quarterback, but Winston was not doing bad at the beginning of the year. I mean, it wasn't great, but he wasn't horrible. He wasn't no Taysom Hill at the beginning of the season. But everybody at the beginning of the season predicted and drafted Adam Troutman as the next big tight end out there. And he failed miserably in that. I think he disappointed a lot of fantasy football teams, coaches out there. So I'm gonna go that way.
to be fair, his best games this season were Jameis's games. And once Jameis went down, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that there was a whole lot there. There wasn't no trust, no faith for him to build on. My reason I kept him off my list of people who could be replaced is I just don't see the team replacing him. He's too young, too much upside that I don't think they're going to go out and try to shop somebody else. And we don't have the money to do it.
My thing though is, has he already been replaced by Juwan Johnson? Sorry, Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, that's a solid intel there for sure.
Who's the tight end one? Who's the tight end one in New Orleans right now?
I'd have to say Johnson.
Yeah, so
that doesn't mean he's been replaced. It just means he's going to have to go up there and show everybody he is what he's supposed to be.
For sure.
Well, continuing on your tight end trend, since we're going to start there this time around, I cannot literally tell you how disappointed I am in the two big acquisitions in New England. I when I saw those names in free agency, I thought for sure that we were going back to that, not to bring up or speak ill of the dead here, but Aaron Hernandez and Gronk side by side again. I thought that's what we were going back to, just absolute tight end dominance in New England. And I mean, did we hear any of their names all season? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I had John on my list as well. That was a flop. At least Hunter Henry was able to kind of reach the end zone on occasion to make him a low floor type of guy. But since we're sticking with tight ends, a tight end that I was kind of unhappy with this year was Tyler Higbee over in Los Angeles for the Rams. Yeah. Because the Rams, most of the Rams had 3 years this year, and Matthew Stafford was ridiculous, and Cooper Kupp was insane. He literally got the triple crown for wide receivers. But I guess Matthew Stafford didn't see fit to deliver the ball to his tight ends too much. Tyler Higbee was a bit of a disappointment. I mean, the Rams had Kupp. They had Robert Woods for most of the year. They brought in Odell. And they had that kind of weird running back situation with Darrell Henderson and Tony Michel. So I think Tyler Higbee was kind of just an afterthought.
Yeah. In Detroit, was there a tight end that was worth mentioning whenever Stafford was there? I mean, he had a couple, but they were just middle of the road, right? There was no star tight end there. Brandon Pettigrew is one that.
Yeah, that's the only name that comes to mind for me.
Okay.
I don't think you really had a superstar tight end ever.
Yeah, so I just don't think that Stafford is one to throw to his tight ends a whole lot. So.
Because Higbee was solid when Goff was there.
Yeah.
He was like a mid tight end one. He wasn't anything special, but someone you could throw into your lineup.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He was kind of like a Kyle Rudolph in his prime.
Yeah. And then going back to the New England ones, Johnny Smith was definitely on my list, but Hunter Henry, I mean, he was top 10 tight end. So he didn't have a great year, but he was definitely a starting tight end. So
tight end is such a weak position. Unless you have Kelsey or Kittle or Andrews or Waller, it's literally a clear top 4, top 5. And then beyond that, you're kind of struggling to find somebody
to
succeed on a week-to-week basis.
Truth.
Yeah.
So two other names I'll throw out real quick that just kind of continue to upset is anybody not named Gronkowski in Tampa Bay. I mean, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard did nothing. I mean, Gronk came in and has been the clear winner of everything in that tight end room, and just like the other two have just quit.
Yeah, I think that's more of a there's too many weapons there to be included. I mean,
too many mouths to feed.
Antonio Brown when he was there.
O.J. Howard, forgotten man. He was a first-round pick not too long ago.
Yep. It's another David Njoku.
Yeah.
Same class, everything. Yep.
So he'll be a free agent where he goes.
That entire class of David Njoku, Evan Ingram, and O.J. Howard are all free agents this year. So it'll be interesting because that was one of the better free agent draft classes for tight ends in the recent years.
Yeah, and they've all kind of been appointments, more or less.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can turn it around in their second contract now. So, but all right, moving on to the wide receivers here. Charlie, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, lot of names. It's tough for me to pick just one, but I guess I'll start with Jalen Ritter. Easy guy to pick on, but he was a first round pick recently. Same class as all those great wide receivers like Justin Jefferson. And Rager's easily been the worst one. He's had so many poor drops and just mental lapses in key situations. He cost the Eagles a game this year against the Giants. I remember watching that game with a drop on an easy play on fourth down. And today in the wild card game against Tampa Bay, he muffed the punt. And the game was still 17-0 at the time, not totally out of reach. And that kind of put the game away. So he just really hasn't lived up to his billing at all. So I think he's gone. I think he's pretty much done. He could be a cut candidate, honestly. It wouldn't surprise me in Philly because Devontae Smith's there. You got Dallas Goedert. I'm sure they'll find somebody in free agency or the draft. Jalen Rager's gone.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. They've had some swings and misses at the wide receiver position.
They've had wide receiver issues for a while.
Yeah, because
for a long
J. Jaw is out there.
That's probably the last real good wide receiver in Philly.
Yeah, they missed on J. Jaw. They missed on Jordan Matthews.
Oh, Jordan Matthews. Forgot about him.
Yeah, so I'm going to go and throw out Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
Going there and having the reunion with Sam Darnold. I get they weren't really all that great in New York, but I figured he'd be his number one target there, and he just was nothing. I mean, Carolina struggled altogether, but Robbie Anderson really wasn't involved at all there for 3/4 of the season.
Yep, I fell for the Robbie Anderson pit trap. I will admit it outright. Drafted him thinking this will be a great sneaky little late round pick no one's going to see coming, and he just ate up bench space, and I was too dang stubborn to get rid of him. So
You and me both. I made that mistake.
Yeah. And then another mistake I made is going to be the individual I want to talk about, and that's going to be Julio Jones.
Yep.
Oh, God, it's so hard to admit when you're wrong, but my goodness, was I wrong on that one, and I bit hard. I think I traded a third-round pick for that guy in one of my dynasty leagues to try to bring him in to give me a boost at that position, and I just could not have been further from the truth on that one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if his career is just done or if he was just plagued by an injury-ridden year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
can we talk about AJ Green, or are we just not going to talk about AJ Green? I couldn't believe that season.
I think the entire Arizona Cardinals offense as a whole, other than James Conner, struggled.
Truth.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But do we really blame Zach Ertz? He came over like mid-season.
I'm still in Zach Ertz, but because he actually was pretty decent whenever he came over. But
D-Hop, AJ Green
was not great. Rondell Moore.
Yeah. Moore actually didn't do horrible. Out of those three names, oddly enough, Moore would be the one I would take just based on this season alone.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how popular of an opinion this would be, and it might be surprising coming from a Broncos fan. But Jerry Jeudy, I know he was hurt, but I thought he was going to cement himself as the number one option. And it just seemed to me like when all three were healthy, Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick were way better than him. I don't know if it was the injury that he was kind of in the back of his mind scared or what, but he didn't look like a first round pick to me. So
I will tell you, in my main dynasty league, I made a trade at the beginning of the season literally before week 1 for Michael Gallup and Jerry Jeudy, and I thought I was set. Julio, Jerry Jeudy, Robbie Anderson, and Michael Gallup. I thought I was golden. And then we already talked about the latter of the two, but then Gallup and Jeudy got injured right after because the whole season. But I'm so happy you said Jeudy. I was going to say him before we moved on, but I was really hoping I could get you as the Bronco fan to call out your own player.
Yeah. Well, you got any, Charlie?
I got 2 names that I want to throw out there. First one, I'll get out of the way quick. He was awful this year, just like pretty much every wide receiver on the team. Kenny Golladay. He was drafted to, maybe be at least a wide receiver too. I made the mistake in one of my leagues of being a homer and saying, "Oh boy, I'm really excited for Kenny Golladay in New York. I can't wait to see what he does." And boy, did that backfire! I ended up in last place in that league. So many bad decisions. But he only had like 500 receiving yards this year. He also couldn't really stay on the field too long. But moving on from him, that was a bad pick. I get that. Terry McLaurin is another one. He had over 1,000 yards this year, so on paper it looked like he had a great year. But he only had 3 games this year where he finished with more than 15 fans.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't know. I guess Taylor Heineke just didn't like throwing to him. It was just kind of like a mixed bag, I suppose you could say. But wherever you drafted McLaurin at, he performed well below his ADP. And basically just not a return on investment.
Yeah.
He's a quarterback.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because both those guys are going to be, possibly be thrown to by somebody else next year. So we'll see. Was it them or is it just the poor production of the quarterback position that plagued them? So, but anybody else got any more wide receivers before we move on?
No, but just to Charlie's point, man, McLaurin was such an exponential disappointment, but I think part of that was because of the expectation from the previous season. I thought that dude was going to walk in and just own everything, and yeah, he absolutely disappointed.
Oh.
Quick shout out to fantasy football bust of the year, Allen Robinson.
There you go.
Yep.
How to call him out.
Yep. He definitely lost some people. Some leagues this year, so it'll be interesting to see where he lands.
Christian Alt was a little bit of a disappointment this year too. I just wanted to kind of mention his name as well, because he flashed out in Jacksonville last year. I kind of thought he was going to be used as a bit of a gadget player this year, sort of what Curtis Samuel did when he was with Carolina, and pretty much the way Trevor Lawrence played, you kind of saw how the rest of it was going to go. He was brutal this year. A lot of rookie struggles, so his receivers kind of just rose and fell with him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the running back position here. Nick, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first, and I think I'll point out probably the most obvious frustration for any fantasy owner on planet Earth who has a first-round draft pick, and that's Christian McCaffrey. I can't understate how sad it is that you've spent the last 3 years watching this kid absolutely destroy everything, and then he goes out for 6 to 8 games a season, and it's murderous on your team.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he's the number one. I don't even think he's a top 5 draft pick next year. I mean, in my eyes.
Well, I mean, it's why are you going to waste the draft capital on a guy you're going to have to replace at some point in the season?
Yeah,
it's absolutely frustrating. Then as a dynasty owner, he's done enough and his household name is enough to keep him on your roster, but it's so frustrating because he's always on IR.
Mm-hmm. I will go ahead and throw out Myles Gaskin.
Yep, my list.
He had such a big opportunity in Miami, and I mean, he had a couple games where he was good, but majority of the season he frustrated me big time. He didn't seem like he was any good at all.
Agreed.
Being stopped behind the line, stopped at the line.
Yeah. When it gets to the point where you're getting Duke Johnson
Yeah.
Out of the backfield. That's when you know.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yep.
totally agree.
Running back for me, big disappointment. I mentioned this earlier before we went live. Was Mike Davis. He was really the only guy at the beginning of the season in the Falcons backfield, and then Cordero Patterson burst out of nowhere and took the fantasy leagues by storm, finishing as an RB1, I believe. And Mike Davis was basically just shoved aside. And even when Mike Davis did get opportunities, because I think there was a game or two where Cordero wasn't around, or he didn't really do much with it. And I think he only signed a 1-year deal, so it's kind of going to be interesting to see what happens to him next. This year was his chance to step up and lead a backfield, and that didn't turn out the way that most owners who drafted him expected it to.
And he was on my list, and he definitely hurt himself because he's an older back. I think he's
28, 29, I think. He's pretty old.
So that might be his last chance.
For running backs.
Yeah. That might have been his last chance right there, and he failed miserably. So
agreed.
But
can we talk about literally anybody that plays for the Baltimore Ravens? I mean, my goodness. I felt bad for that. They were looking for grocery runners. They were looking for Uber drivers. They were looking for anybody who had a gas pedal and could go anywhere, for God's sakes. They couldn't keep anybody healthy on that team.
Yeah, I wish that they would have given Tyson Williams more of a chance. Latavius Murray and Devonta Freeman are older backs that, I mean, they came in and were decent at best, but I feel like Tyson Williams would have been giving him a little bit extra playing time and see if he could get in the groove. I think he probably could have been a lot better for him this year than their other guys.
Especially after your quarterback goes down, especially a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you got nothing else to lose at that point. Let the horses run and see what you got.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure. I'm gonna go and throw out Zach Moss. He was who I thought was going to take over in Buffalo as the number one. He looked good in preseason. Looked decent at the start of the season, and then just fell off completely. And then, like I said, Devin Singletary is going to be number one there next year. So,
yeah. I got a homer pick here just real quick because I forgot about this kid until you mentioned preseason. But Tony Jones, I thought for sure we'd see some flashes out of Tony Jones in relief of Alvin Kamara, or maybe as a compliment to Alvin Kamara. And injuries kind of plagued him, and I just did not see the play out of Tony Jones that we saw in the preseason. I was really hyped up about.
Yeah.
I'll throw out one homer pick of my own, too. Saquon was a big disappointment this year as well, and that's kind of been 2 or 3 years running now where injuries have just taken a toll. And we have in 2018 rookie Saquon Barkley was the number one running back overall in fantasy. As someone who watched all the games, seeing him come back from his injury, he doesn't quite look like the same guy. And I don't know if he's been rushing himself back to get back out there, but he doesn't have the same speed. He doesn't have the same cuts, the same angles that he's taking when he's running the ball. He doesn't seem to have the type of vision that he used to. So it's a big disappointment for me, and just really sad, honestly, more than anything else.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. He's in a contract year next year, so
yeah,
he's going to be playing for what possibly could be his last contract. I don't know. He's what, 26?
24, 25, I think.
So I guess maybe not his last contract, but he's definitely playing for the start.
Probably one and only payday, if anything.
Yeah. So we'll see if this offseason he can get healthy and get back to the old Saquon. So
fantasy relevance.
Yeah.
Something.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to our last one here, the quarterbacks. I'm going to throw out Jordan Love. I get there's only one start, but the Packers are in deep, deep trouble if Aaron Rodgers ends up leaving. Jordan Love looked horrible in his start. So I don't know if that game taught him anything, and they're going to try to go out and get one of the lesser-known free agents or draft another guy just in case. Jordan Love is not great, but he didn't look good at all. So
Remind me, who was his start against? I forgot who they were playing.
Kansas City, right?
That was, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was like the first game.
Yeah,
it was awful.
Yeah, so he just I can't even remember a lot of first downs they even got in that game. It's just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So
yeah, I mean, it's a brave pick on a guy that's only had one game, but you're not wrong. He had a lot to prove, and he was given an opportunity to prove it.
Yeah.
That, and I can't stand Aaron Rodgers, but hey. You guys are going to learn real quick if you follow this anymore. Me and Aaron Rodgers are not friends, but that's all right. So I'll go with a pick who I'm not 100% sold on this, but either way, it was still a disappointing for him, and that's Tua. I expected so much more out of Tua, and I don't know if it was the coaching. I don't know if it was just him not being comfortable at the NFL level or what it is, but the guy he's progressing from year one. He had a much better year two, but I just haven't seen the brilliance that we saw out of him in college. And I know that doesn't always translate, but hopefully a fresh start at head coach, maybe someone who's more quarterback focused can help him to evolve a little bit more. I don't really know if that was Flores' fault or not, but is now, I guess.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Tua and Flores did not get along at all. There was a report recently that came out that Flores said that he wanted the Dolphins to draft Mac Jones to be their starting quarterback in this past year's draft. So it's clear that he and Tua didn't have the best relationships. Like you said, maybe bringing in a coach who's a little more of a quarterback whisperer might help Tua, work wonders for him. But some really a team of quarterbacks, I guess, that I want to bring up that was just awful, god-awful, Carolina.
Yep.
Sam Darnold, and when he came back, Cam Newton. Oh my God, I want to puke. Sam Darnold, like the first couple weeks of the year, he wasn't bad yet rushing for us. We're like, oh, could this be something here? Do we have a fantasy relevant quarterback in Sam Darnold? And oh boy, were we proven wrong. Oh my God, they were straight trash. There's no other way to put that. And then Cam Newton came along, he didn't do much better. Just They need to find somebody new and need to find it fast because I love DJ Moore and I can't stand to see him with an awful quarterback under center.
Yeah. And Chuba's nothing to throw a stick at either. I think he's going to have a great career moving forward with the Panthers, even if McCaffrey comes back and stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I mean, teams of quarterbacks, man. Winston, Hill, Trevor Siemian, Ian Book. My God, just name one. For the Saints. I was really, really disappointed by Ian Book, actually. I thought he was put in a perfect position to show why he was drafted and to really prove that he deserved a spot on the team. And he might as well have just took a nap in the backfield. I couldn't believe how bad that game was.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Jared Goff here, too. Yep. I don't know if expectations were high for him, but he definitely did not meet the low expectations that were put on him. He was just lost all year long.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's him and the coaches just didn't mesh or whatever, but Detroit seemed like they were, we got Jared Goff for the next couple of years. He looked nothing like he was after the first year in LA.
Yeah.
He looked actually pretty decent for 2 years. Their Super Bowl year and then one more, and then he just completely fell off. And I thought that Detroit was going to be his saving grace, and it's just not. So.
And how silly does Matt Patricia look in all of that after trading away Stafford, and I believe there was draft capital involved in that trade too, and it just looks god awful on him.
Mm-hmm. So.
A name I want to throw out there, Ryan Tannehill. Most owners were drafting him or grabbing him. I made a trade to get him. this past year in one of my Dynasty leagues. Expecting going to be a QB1. Titans went out and got Julio Jones, who we for. And obviously you had A.J. Brown. You had weapons, but obviously very early on it became the Derrick Henry show, which quickly relegated Ryan Tannehill to just passing when he needed to. And then even when Derrick Henry got hurt, Julio Jones was also hurt. A.J. Brown was hurt. He didn't really have anybody to throw to, and he struggled as a result. And he only had a couple of decent performances here and there. But it's not what you want from someone who was supposed to be drafted as a good quarterback in a prolific offense on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big disappointment this year. So I don't know how much trust I have in him going forward.
Yeah, I wonder how much Arthur Lynch leaving and going to Atlanta hurt him, because he was good for what 2-3 years now with Arthur Lynch as his offensive coordinator, but second he leaves, Tannehill struggles. So, all right, anybody else got any more quarterbacks? We'll throw out. All right, just one more quick thing before we leave here. There's a lot of head coaching vacancies out there. Just one quick team for the best landing spot, and then what coach you'd like to see go there.
So I'm going to split your question here. So the best landing spot for any coach, I think, is going to be the Raiders. And I'd like to see, I think Flores takes that one just because of his defensive mind and the fact that there's a quarterback already in place. He's proven he's not greatest with young quarterbacks. So I think Flores goes to the Raiders. But somebody that I would really like to see get a good chance for a quarterback perspective is to get Brian Dabble go down there and try to fix the T-Law situation down there in Jacksonville. I think would be great.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to say Jacksonville as the best landing spot. Kind of going off of that a bit. They already have a franchise QB in place. They got some pieces on the offense. They have a few guys on defense. There are just some holes you need to plug in. If they can get a QB whisperer, maybe Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City, who can go in as a head coach and help Trevor Lawrence sort of build and improve upon his bad year, I think that's an option. And I just want to throw out probably the worst landing spot for a head coach, which I think is the Giants. I'll be honest, not a great spot. No cap space. A lot of poor decisions made by the previous general managers and head coach. A lot of money put into just a few players. Guys are aging. Not a lot of cap space. Just not a spot I would personally want to be in.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the homer pick, my Broncos. They fixed their quarterback problem, and I think that they are playoff contenders. They've got a great defense. They've got a lot of weapons, great young running back, 3 great wide receivers, and a good tight end. So fix the quarterback position, and I think that they are solid. And then my coach will be Kellen Moore. I think he has definitely earned a head coaching role. Young offensive mind, has led the Cowboys to the best offense in the league this year. And last year, he was on pace to break some records with Dak until Dak got hurt. So I think that the sky's the limit for him.
I'm going to throw out a rebuttal to your pick there for your team, and I'm going to actually say Dan Quinn.
Yeah, nope. I'm tired of the defensive-minded coaches, and then I want an offensive-minded.
Defense is what got you to where you were.
No, defense is why John Elway ruined the Denver Broncos. So let's go offensive. But that will do it for us here. It was a good episode, good first episode for us. I'm excited for the offseason and to get into some of these free agent acquisitions and teams that what they could possibly be doing in the offseason. So, again, I'm Coach Dylan. You can see all my stuff at DMeany9688 on Twitter. Nick, go ahead.
I am Coach Nick, and again, I'm at in Lapthorn at Twitter.
And I'm Coach Charles. You can find me at Chuckster7777.
All right, guys. Well, good first show, and we'll see you probably next week. We'll get it going again.
All right, Joe. Take care now.
Have a good night, everybody.